It absolutely is Fantasy Author's Handbook, and I'm certainly Phil. You're here, I'm here, we're here. Let's talk about Goodreads just for a little bit today. I keep seeing stuff, I've been seeing stuff recently, I know everyone has, about how terrible Goodreads is. Goodreads is a swamp, Goodreads is a cult, Goodreads is a big, I don't know what, right? It's all toxic, it's all about how, it's all about people fighting and arguing. And what I wanted to talk about this for is, there's a couple things, right? Goodreads is a social media platform. So, of course it's toxic. I mean, you've been on social media, right? I've been on Twitter for a long time, X or whatever it's called now, I don't care. Terrible stuff going on there. I mean, just crazy, awful, terrible stuff going on there all day, every day. Facebook, wow, is that awful. Name one, and it's a disaster. TikTok, Instagram, you know all the names of them. Discord, wherever, this chan, that chan, the other chan, whatever the number of chans. It's all just a cesspool of, crazy bots that are just sort of like weird, obviously just some picture of a, young woman that they took from the internet, and it's no one, it's just somebody in a big farm of phones. It's terrible, right? So why would Goodreads be completely different from that? Why would anyone expect that Goodreads doesn't have like the way off the right side mega conservative coming in and just being mean to everybody and trying to destroy everything? Why wouldn't it have, I don't know, somebody who just has an opinion about a book or about something, politics, religion, etc., just kind of pouring in there and saying everybody who reads this or everybody who likes that or everybody who is this is bad and terrible and God hates them or whatever, right? So if you're finding that on Goodreads, that's bad. I'm sorry you found that on Goodreads. I've seen little glimmers of it. But here's the good news about Goodreads anyway, right? All that stuff is on there. But it's actually pretty easy to edit that stuff out. You don't have to wallow in the worst parts of social media. I don't, right? And I see it, I get weird. X in particular is terrible about sending ads my way that clearly anyone who knows me even a little bit would be like, he's not going to buy that thing. It's like, you're really sending this to the wrong guy. But I just go, what do? I say block that. Sometimes I report stuff that if it really feels like it's crazy, like it's way off the edge. But block, get on with my life. Follow people who talk about books. That's what I do, right? I follow people on Twitter or X who talk about books, who talk about RPGs, talk about RPGs in particular in a positive and inclusive way and not everybody who doesn't play the OSR or OD&D white box set is a poser or something. What even are you talking about, right? Like you got to filter out some crazy toxicity in that. Unfortunately, in that community that used to be where I just lived my life. And I'm sorry to see it has gone in that direction. But in Goodreads, in particular, I have found a really nice little community there. You can and should and must, and I'm certain will, join the Fantasy Authors Handbook Goodreads group. We're about to vote on, or right now, the poll is up for our May group read. So you can get in on that. And there you will find a positive, nice place where people talk about fantasy, writing science fiction, writing horror, writing in general, and somebody who is me moderating that and just kind of saying, hey everybody, this is a place to talk about writing, not to talk about politics, not to talk about hot button issues or whatever. And for the most part, when I go on to Goodreads, and I do every day, I at least get on there and kind of go see what's happening, check in on the group, see what's going on there. And mostly what I see, 99.9% of what I see are that stream of here are your friends on Goodreads and what they're reading. And mostly what people are reading is a lot of genre fiction, a lot of comics, right? Comic collections and so on. RPG stuff is in there. And I'm like, great. And I'll see books and go, ooh, that looks interesting, and go follow through and maybe put that on the big Amazon list that I'm always collecting. And I do all of that stuff. I update like the books that I'm reading, like, I grab one every day and say this is what page I'm on now. Maybe I'll sort of, share my Goodreads challenge that I'm doing this year, which is back to 52 books in 2024. Right now, as I'm recording this, I'm like 4 books ahead, so go me. But I'm not finding stuff. I'm not finding the toxic corners of Goodreads. I'm not finding the place that makes it feel in any way like a cult. And for me, what I find most valuable in Goodreads, and I know that there are other services that do this and maybe do it better, but because I just started using Goodreads when, as far as I knew anyway, it was the only thing like this, now I'm kind of dug in there. And just like when Twitter went to X and all that happened, where do we go? To start that all over again after 10 years. So you're just kind of left doing, again, what I'm doing there, trying to make the best of that situation by just curating my experience and not wallowing in and not arguing with people who are just trying to stir stuff up. So for me, Goodreads is mostly useful and has been very useful as a way to list books. So if you've seen my videos about my giant, I'm pointing over there because they're over there, my giant random to be read pile, all of these mostly old, science fiction, fantasy, horror, etc. paperbacks that I read at random. I've got more than 400 of them. And I finally realized when I took them out of the box, because I thought they were all being crushed, and I went to put them on the shelf here where at least they would be held in good shape. I realized there's been a few instances where the same book is in there twice. I saw a book 20 years ago, and I was like, oh, this looks really cool. And I bought it, and it went in there. And then, 16 years later, I saw the same book, maybe in a different edition. And thought, ooh, this looks really cool, forgetting that I had already bought it, right? So I finally went through all of those and put them all up on Goodreads in my sort of to be read list. And so now they're all in there. So now when I'm out in the bookstore, used bookstores, if I'm, online ordering stuff, I can check and say, do I have this, right? Or here's a book by this author. Let me go onto that Goodreads list and just see what I have by that author. And I found, oh my gosh, I've had that the whole time. That's great. Don't buy another one. And so that utility for me is enormously useful. It's also a great place I found to just track what you're reading. So right now, if you friend me on Goodreads, you'll see what I'm reading right now, the 5 books, right? If you care what I have to say about those books, you might read a 2-3 sentence review there, and I do the review thing. We'll get into that. And otherwise, that's great. If there are, and I've heard there are, which I'm like, really? Like lists of authors we hate, and so we need to go and destroy them and cancel them or whatever. Unbelievably stupid. I've never actually seen that. And if I did see that, here's okay, everybody in the group, here are talk about the authors you hate. I'm not going to click on that. I'm not going to read that. I don't ever read the worst list. These are the worst books of 2023. These are the worst books by name whatever author. I don't want to know what you hate. I'm not interested in that. There are books that I've read the first, few pages of and been like, yeah. And then I move on with my life. I'm not going to, that doesn't make me the enemy of that author, right? I mean, come on now. All you have to do is just go to Amazon or Goodreads or any place that has reviews, these sort of public reviews, that just users can do and not, the New York Review of Books or something like that. And just go look up your favorite novels of all time, and then just be surprised and maybe a little bit, unhappy about all of the one-star reviews and all the people who just totally didn't get it, totally didn't like it, had some weird complaint where you're kind of like, I didn't get that at all. It's all subjective. It's all up here. It's all in between each individual person's brain. Right? So if somebody didn't like a book, okay, gotcha. I don't need to know about that. Somebody did like a book, now I'm interested. If you're saying, hey, Phil, read this book, I'm going to be like, oh, what's that? What's going on there? Okay, great. I'm always looking for book recommendations. Look at all these books I have. Somebody tell me what's good. I'm going to buy it. It'll go up on the shelf. It'll go into the giant to be read, right? And this is only the upstairs office stuff. The main library is downstairs. So are there worst lists? Are there reasons to hate this? And these are the problematic things, and these are the whatever, bad and evil. Just walk away. You have the ability and the freedom to just not wallow in it, and to just decide not to get into the argument. And a lot of this also started for me with a post that I did a long time ago on the blog, Fantasy Author's Handbook, which I know you're reading every Tuesday religiously, called Why I Give Every Book I Read 5 Stars on Goodreads. And I think if you go and you follow me on Goodreads, or you friend me or whatever, and you start looking at those reviews, with unbelievably rare exceptions, maybe less than, a handful, everything is 5 stars. So what does that mean? That means that Phil has no discernment whatsoever, that literally every book that I pick up, even the stuff that came to me at random and is chosen at random, is definitely 100% awesome. Like literally the best book that I've ever read. I only read absolute works of genius, like the Doc Savage series right behind me. Right? Every Doc Savage book is a 5-star masterpiece. Right? No. Okay. I mean, I love these books. They are just a hoot. They're more fun. Are they like ranked up there with House of Leaves, right? Or something like that, like really my favorite books of all time? No, right? I don't, whatever. But I give them 5 stars. I give every book I read 5 stars because I don't want Goodreads or the math, the algorithm, whatever, behind Goodreads to try to get to know me and try to understand me. And that's going to happen anyway, right? And it's the same reason why if I watch something on Netflix, I don't give it the thumbs up or thumbs down or whatever it is now, right? I never do that. I don't engage in any way in any other reviews of any kind. Every once in a while, I'll leave an Amazon review, usually as a favor to a friend. Right? And on Goodreads, I will write what you could call reviews, even though I've said before in the past, never read reviews, never write, if you're an author in particular, never read reviews, never write reviews. But right, you can go on Goodreads and say, hey, Phil, you're being a hypocrite, you're writing reviews. And okay, couple, 2-3 sentences about, hey, I like this and this is what I liked. I just read this collection of short stories and my favorite of them was this one. And I really thought this was terrific. Sometimes I just go 5 stars and leave no comments at all. And then that's it. What does that mean? I don't know. I just kind of didn't want to that day. Maybe it did mean that I was kind of stressing for something good to say, right? But you won't know, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Because what do you want? Why would you want a worst books list? I know, right? Well, I need people to warn me away from books so that I don't waste my money or time. How the hell do you know that you will feel the same way about any piece of subjective artwork than anyone out there in the world? Even somebody you know might still steer you wrong. somebody whose opinion you absolutely value got a hold of a book on just exactly the wrong day and was kind of like, I can't even. And then that book is terrible, right? But if you read it, you might be like, no, this book is brilliant. This is amazing. And then talk to that friend and say, no, you got to give this a second try because this is really super cool, right? Now, is that going to happen every single time? Probably not. Maybe your friend is actually, you can trust that opinion or your opinions will line up. I don't know. But for me, right, why would you risk missing a book that you're going to love based on it being on somebody's worst list, when that same book is probably on somebody else's best list? So when I give every book 5 stars on Goodreads, what I'm trying to say to the universe and mostly to the math inside of Goodreads is I love everything. I love books. So when Goodreads then is trying to recommend a book to me, it's kind of stuck with, well, he likes apparently everything. Now, I'm not so naive that I think that that's where it ends, right? The star rating is the only way in which data is being tracked about me. Whether that's, by liking stuff on Twitter or the thumbs up or thumbs down or star ratings wherever. Certainly someone has figured out how to do a math problem that says, just look at everything that Phil has ever read that's on his read list and, what are the top 5 genres, right? So they're going to be like, well, Phil definitely likes fantasy, science fiction, horror, literary fiction, and then kind of a weird range of nonfiction, but a lot of stuff about writing in particular. And so now they're going to recommend those books to me. But because it can't be filtered through, I gave this author a 1-star review and that author a 5-star review and this a 3 and a 4 and whatever, then it has to, I think, at least, right? Do I know about algorithms? But it seems to me that then that has to say, well, here's a fantasy novel Phil has read and liked and given 5 stars to a bunch of fantasy novels. So tell Phil about the fantasy novel. And I'm happy for anybody, including, a series of algorithms, to tell me, hey, Phil, look at this thing over here that you probably would like because it's a book. And what's the worst that's going to happen? Hey, look, this new book is coming out and it's this. I'm like, I don't know, okay. Or, oh, hey, I didn't know that was a thing. What's going on here? Oh, I got to go take a look at that, right? That goes on the wish list. Oh, I need to buy that right now. Whatever. Oh, I read that years ago, right? Oh my God, I read that when I was like 15 and it was amazing. Whatever it is. Give me at least a positive. Say, Phil, we think this. And if I say I like everything, then they are going to still have to kind of show me everything. And I want to see everything, right? And so right away, I'm making that less toxic in lots of different ways. At least less toxic for myself because I'm not telling it who not to show me. I'm telling it to show me everybody. And less toxic because now authors aren't suffering over, why did this guy give me a 1-star review? Why did I get a 2-star review? Right? Why does this Phil guy hate me? When I don't hate anybody. You put pen to paper and write a novel and you are my friend. Care who you are. Did I love your book? I don't know. The world will never know. Or it probably will. Actually, I shouldn't have even said that. I've pulled out books and said, oh my God, this book is so great. At the end of every month, I do a sort of review of books, right? These are the books that I've read, and I talk a little bit about those. And I'm happy to do that, right? And I always am trying to say, this is what I liked about it. Or, in a previous video, I talked about what we owe the future, and I was kind of confused by it. And the question was, and I wasn't saying, this book is terrible, don't buy it. I will never say that. I was saying, I kind of struggled with this. Did you? Or do you have it? What am I missing? Am I missing something? Is there something we can talk about that? So let's talk about that book. right? Not, it's the worst book of all time, and it goes on to the worst list, and we must find this author and whatever, right? So I give every book I read 5 stars on Goodreads, and I curate my experience on Goodreads and everywhere else on social media. I don't get into arguments online with strangers. I used to get into arguments online with friends, and I stopped doing that years ago. That's why you really aren't going to find me on Facebook, except for the Fantasy Authors Handbook Facebook group, where there's not a lot going on. If you're spending a greater than 0 number of minutes in any given week arguing with strangers online about anything, about books, about genres, about role-playing games, which edition of D&D is the best, oh my God, really? Stop doing that and use those number of minutes to write something for yourself. Yeah? And in the meantime, really think about, why do I need to be a critic? Is that really what I want to be? Is that really what we're doing here? Is that helping? Does giving a 2-star review to somebody's book actually helping? And I've heard people say, well, I want to help the author by giving them positive feedback. It's too late. If it's on Goodreads, the book is done, it's too late. And let's be honest, why would that author trust this anonymous stranger on the internet? Like, who are you? The hell do you know? Maybe you know a lot. You know, maybe you're absolutely right. I don't know. Or I would agree with you absolutely, or what. I don't know. But what does that do? Hey, you, I hated your book. That's terrible. And do I have to be the old dad who's telling everybody, oh, you kids, watch it out with that the intertubes and the thing with the on the cellular phones? I get maybe. I hope not. I don't want to be that guy. I want to be the guy who says, hey, everybody, love books. Love the genre. Love authors. Love each other. Talk constructively and happily about the things that we love, and not angrily and about the things we hate, right? Try this. From now on, give everything you read 5 stars on Goodreads. And if you don't have anything good to say about it, don't say anything at all. Did that help? I hope that helped. I wanted it to help. I want to be helpful. This has been Fantasy Authors Handbook. I have been Phil. I release you from the rant. Good luck out there.